this morning I have a full house, as you guys can see by the screen. I have the director and the cast of IKÉ Boys, which is going to premiere this week over at Fantastic Fest, which is a fantastic festival by the name of it, right? So let me introduce you guys. I have Eric McEver, director, and then we have our three stars, which include Quinn Lord, Ronak Gandhi, and Christina Higa. Uh, Thank you so much for being with me this morning. I had so much fun with this film.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having fun with the film.
Yeah, I mean, so like I think what got me is that what teenager doesn't want to have a really cool experience like that, right? Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit about the film?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, where it stemmed from was this is my first feature film, and I wanted to make something that, to quote the Duplass brothers, I wanted to make something that I was uniquely qualified to make. And I thought, well, let me combine the things that I enjoy most in life with just sort of the underlying themes about humanity that I believe in the most. That we would all be a lot better off if we believed in ourselves and believed in one another. And that sort of naturally led me to making a film based off my own childhood. My goal with the film is I really want to make something that, people, if they've had like a really bad day, that they're like, I've had an awful day, I'm going to see IKÉ Boys. And then an hour and a half later, I don't know, things feel a little bit better. And my thinking was the only way I can earn the trust of the audience to trust, be vulnerable with me and my work is if I am vulnerable with them and be just as authentic as possible about what my lived experience was. It was just a mix. It was a process of mixing my own life with the things that I'm passionate about. And then bringing a lot of other talented people on board to make it even better.
Well, I think you were very successful with that, because I did feel a little bit better after the film. I really loved all three of the main characters on here. So let's start off. Let's talk about Vik and Shawn and their friendship and how much they love anime and where that stems from, because then it gets a little rocky soon. But Ronak, let's start with you. Let's talk about Vik.
Obviously Vik is a Indian American kid in Oklahoma, trying to find his own way through high school. Cute girl, wants to do everything to impress her. And so I think that kind of just informs the character throughout the rest of the movie, is that it's this kid that wants to be liked and wants to be appreciated. And I guess maybe he doesn't feel that in his relationship with Shawn.
Quinn, go ahead.
On the other hand, Shawn is kind of like, by the numbers, by the book, and he's doing well in school. He sort of wrote off having a relationship because of the whole atmosphere of the 90s high school. But unbeknownst to him, he was subjecting Vik to a whole bunch of anime that it's not necessarily both of their fortes. It's more for Shawn's benefit, because Vik just sort of wants to hang out with Shawn, sort of keeping the friendship at a cost, right? But once they get the powers, everything changes, and it becomes a nice way to figure out the problems and overcome them together.
Actually, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but we cannot ignore the fact that then we have Miki show up all the way from Japan looking for Native Americans. I was very sad to think, oh no, she's probably going to be let down. Tell us about Miki, Christina.
So Miki is, a foreign exchange student from Japan who just makes her way all the way to Oklahoma on a vision quest. And she's very determined to meet these Native Americans and experience the prairie lands and the whole romanticized image of Oklahoma that she had. But of course, it doesn't turn out that way. And she's still determined to continue on her vision quest despite her circumstances. And yeah, she ends up meeting Shawn and Vik, who are obsessed with her own culture, but she is just trying to avoid being sucked into their world, but ends up being sucked in. And it's this whole journey of her continuing her vision quest, but then kind of finding her way back to Shawn and Vik constantly throughout the movie.
I think one of the things I found really interesting, and you guys mentioned it, Quinn, you mentioned it. I went to school in the 90s. I'm not sure how old you guys are, because sometimes I find myself, no, I did, and then no, I didn't. But I'm getting up there in age, and I don't want to admit it. But yeah, things like anime, things like superheroes, all that stuff was it was the opposite of what was supposedly cool. And I find myself frustrated to think that nowadays it's what's in, it's what's cool, it's what everybody's doing. Did you guys kind of enjoy having that experience to look back and to know how much we have changed culturally in the United States as far as what is in and what is not, I guess?
Yeah, actually, my high school experience was completely different from that. So I was lucky enough to have a high school to, have pretty much no bullies anywhere. But then, of course, there is the saying that if you're in a, say, group of friends, for example, and you don't spot an asshole, well, it only leaves one person left. And there's always an asshole in a group of friends. So who knows? Perhaps I was unwittingly the only person there, but I kind of doubt it.
He said as he brushed back his perfect hair.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't really feel things were in or not. I guess in high school I was more just like the vanilla guy, average, so I didn't really make any splashes. But I watched Dragon Ball Z, I watched Pokemon, Digimon growing up, so, and some of my friends did also, so it wasn't like I was out of, fish out of water. A lot of my friends did too, so I never felt pressures of what's in, what's not, what's cool, what's not. I just kind of did my own thing.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in Tokyo and went to school in Japan. And so it's really cool to see that, like, the resurgence of this coolness of anime and Japanese culture right now, because I do know that even though I grew up in Tokyo, I came to America a lot, and I could sense, manga and stuff, like it was something that was just subjected to kind of the not so cool people and like the geeks and whatever. But it's really cool now to see how that's changed culturally through like entertainment. Yeah.
Eric, you have a lot of different obviously like genres that you put into your film that you love, and I felt that you have your kaiju that you mention in. I get like Beetleborg vibes. I don't know if you guys know about that show from the 90s, kind of like a Power Ranger-esque type show.
Yeah.
And things like that. How did you balance it all out? Because it really flowed really well, and I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. So I think maybe the best way to answer the question is, when I was first starting to work on the designs for the character, for the monster characters, for the fantastical characters, for the concept artist, we were talking about it, and one of the first things I told him is that I want all the designs to be iconic. And what I mean by that is, like, the really classic Japanese characters, you can tell who they are by a silhouette. I mean, it's like, you can tell this is Godzilla by silhouette, and I see Destoroyah hanging over your shoulder. So there's that too. But I think that was really key for me, both visually and in terms of the story, is that I wanted the characters in this film I wanted them, it's sort of like if you did a lineup and it's like you've got, you've got a Dragon Ball, and you've got Evangelion, and you've got, Macross, and, on down the line. If you put the IKÉ Boys characters in that lineup, they would fit in. It's like, okay, like these silhouettes, they seem like they're part of the continuation. And so I think what it really came down to was making characters that were part of the spectrum, and they were part of the continuation and the lineage, but that they could stand on their own. And I you know, I hear the word love letter used a lot, and I appreciate that, but I guess I wanted it to be, I wanted it almost like to feel like part of the canon rather than an homage to the canon. So I think that was the end result of trying to balance all of sort of the influences with the new things I wanted to put into it.
And I think the genre you picked really serves well, especially if you're on a specific budget, because some of those classic, memorable kaiju movies that we remember, especially Godzilla ones, you know that it's a guy in a suit, and it's not necessarily the CGI big budget type of deal, but you still had fun with it. You're still able to imagine the characters, imagine the scenery and the story. And I think that's why I also related to it, because it felt classic and at the same time modern.
Well, thank you. I mean, and I think the thing about anime and certainly about tokusatsu films is you don't watch them ironically. Like you watch them and engage with them and engage in this kind of bananas world as though it were real. And once you're willing to make the leap of faith and really engage with it on its own terms and accept it as the given reality, I mean, that's when the magic starts to happen. That's when you really, you know, if you're willing to watch these things on their own terms, they tap into some really deep primal stuff. And that for me, that was a lot of just what childhood was like and adolescence is like, is it's just like, you know, there's all this sort of like surface level bullshit, but beneath that, some really deep things going on. So yeah, I thought that the two went together well.
Now the costumes you guys were wearing, I know, Christina, we know that was you in the costume, obviously, because you didn't have a mask or anything like that. But for
Yes.
Quinn, Ronak, were you guys in costume, or was that somebody else?
During transformation where you could see my face, yes, that was me.
I wish it was me the whole entire time, but unfortunately it was not. I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be so bad.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of really wonderful suit actors, and I did make a point of having the suit actors watch you guys move around and try to, you know, and I talked with them, but like the point is, when you're transformed, I don't want you to be transformed into, it's like suddenly you're moving around cool and confidently. It's like, no, you're still Vik and Shawn, you're just in these oversized, awkward, like weird bodies, which, you know, a bit like puberty. And so I think it worked out. I look forward to seeing what Quinn and Ronak can do when they're given the opportunity to be in a suit.
I think they have a lot of fun with it. I know I would. I tell people I'll pay to be a mascot just because it looks like it's so much fun.
But I need to give massive props to Chris and Hunter, who were in the suits, because I mean, they were wonderful to work with, and I mean, it's kind of like watching Olympic athletes, to be honest, because yeah, I mean, Christina, you got to act with them.
And one was sweating. I mean, the kaiju Hunter was just sweating profusely. Like it was freezing in Oklahoma, like at 4 a.m. in the prairie. And he would just take off his head, and it was just like, he was just drenched in sweat. Meanwhile,
well, he would steam too. That was the other kind of horrific.
Yeah, he was steaming, and I would go to him, and he would just like, I would go to him for warmth. He was like my heater. And then meanwhile, Chris was like freezing as well in his suit. So it was like, I mean, serious props to them. It was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty remarkable. I mean, it was amazing to see, because there was a lot of adrenaline and a lot of, like, you know, before you press start, you know, like they're shivering and they're just kind of like there. But then when they went going, it was just like, I mean, I don't know what it is like to move like that, to be able to move like that.
Well, it turned out really great. So in the film, you guys are obviously very passionate about different cultures. You have Quinn and Ronak who are very into anime. Ronak not as your character not as much. But still though, and then Christina, we have your character who's very much into Native American. So my question to you three is, what other cultures besides your own are you passionate about, that you love to look into maybe their media, their history, and that you enjoy?
Well, technically, since I'm in Canada, I could say the US, but no, I'm gonna say the UK because I very much admire their television, and there are quite a few series there that are really splendid.
I would
could
say,
list most of them.
sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
I would say Middle Eastern culture only because there's so many like small subtleties that connect to Indian culture that I find it very fascinating. That in some of their different languages, there are words that are similar to Hindi that I speak. So I like seeing the similarities, and I like seeing the small differences that a similar region could have. So I think I would say Middle Eastern culture is something that I gravitate towards.
I've always had a fascination with like Mayan culture. I don't know why, but it's just something that I've always been drawn to, not necessarily like their entertainment or anything, just more so their culture and like their spirituality. It's drawn me. It's yeah. So that for me, it would be Mayan culture.
Eric, I know that you're very much into anime and things like that. So we're going to let you answer as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I went for, I mean, Japan is at this stage a second home for me. I mean, I've lived in and out of there for over a decade. So that's the obvious answer. Before this, I made my thesis film in China, in Beijing, and it's interesting because that's kind of, kind of the estranged older brother to Japan, but I really pretty deeply connected with China and with my experience making a film there over the course of a year. I really want to get to Australia. I don't know why. Part of it is that my favorite TV show, Farscape, was made there. But I just, for many years, I've sensed there have been things that interest me about it. Made a lot of good Australian friends, and I just kind of have a hunch that if I get to Australia, good things will happen. They also like beer, which I'm a big fan of.
There's always time for beer.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
time for beer.
I even know that now.
I think just to join you guys in, I've recently discovered that South America has quite, especially the Argentina and other countries like that, have amazing horror films, and I've been venturing into those, and I think it's amazing. So yeah, it's always great to come together and to talk about things like this, and then blend cultures and talk about them in films like in IKÉ Boys. Real quick question, just to wrap it up. I love to end a lot of my interviews with, what was your takeaway from working on this film? Because everything we do is a learning experience. Quinn, we'll start with you.
Okay. I've definitely learned a handful of Japanese words just on the spot on the day, because I don't actually speak fluent Japanese. I had to sort of learn some of the Japanese words closer to the day, if not on the day. So it was definitely an interesting challenge I've never really had before, and I'm kind of interested in trying out some more bilingual stuff in the future. Perhaps it will be Japanese from here on out. Perhaps it will be French, Spanish, who knows?
I would say for me, my main takeaway is it was more of a retrospective on my own childhood, feeling more what's the word? I guess empathetic towards children who are in high school and what they're going through, especially because I had to sort of relive that now. So I would say it was a good full circle moment for me in understanding my own self from when I was a kid.
For me, my main takeaway was definitely this big introduction, epic introduction to the world of anime, which I didn't necessarily grow up with. But for me, now that since this film, it's really opened my eyes to that. And that's really awesome because it kind of just is rooted in my culture. So it's full circle as well.
Well, the message of the film is be yourself, be true to yourself. And both in the content of the film and the process of making it, I really tried to practice what I preached there. And I think the wonderful thing was discovering that is a contagious thing. When you give, you receive. And so I want to keep doing that. it's kind of funny. People started calling me Mr. Rogers on set, which I'll gladly accept. But it's, I don't know. I think honestly, when you do try to love and accept other people, and love and accept yourself, that blossoms and grows outwards. So I intend to keep living that way.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Quinn, Ronak, Christina, Eric, for your time. Eric, congratulations on your first feature film, your world premiere happening. That is, I can't imagine how excited you are. You must be super excited.
We are excited.
So thank you all for your time. It was very nice to meet you all virtually, and look forward to seeing you guys in the future.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.